Senior living operators face a complex set of challenges. How do you stay ahead of the pack? Listen in to From Leads to Leases, a CCR growth podcast for expert solutions that transform problems into opportunities. And maybe someday soon you'll partner with us to generate $1.5 million and up in additional revenue per community in just 12 months. Welcome back to another episode of From Leads to Leases, the podcast where we dive deep into the senior living industry, offering insights, strategies, and stories from the experts at the forefront. So I'm your host, Jerry Vinci, CEO of CCR Growth, here to guide you through the evolving landscape of connecting communities with the families and residents they serve. Today we have a special guest, David Kolesnikow, the founder and CEO of Boomernology. Based in New York City, Boomernology is revolutionizing tech support for baby boomers and seniors. David has a rich background in technology and legal support, combining technical knowledge with clear communication to help older adults navigate the digital world confidently. His passion for bridging the digital divide and creating supportive environments where seniors can build tech confidence, which is huge today, makes Boomernology a vital resource in today's increasingly digital society. So in this episode, we'll explore how Boomernology helps seniors with personalized tech support, discuss the importance of digital literacy for older adults, and dive into strategies for protecting seniors from online scams and cybersecurity threats. We'll also touch on effective marketing to seniors and the role of technology in enhancing their quality of life. So welcome to the show, David. We're really glad to have you on today.
Hey, Jerry. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. I've been looking forward to this conversation. I'm a tech guy too, and I'm always the person who has to help everybody else figure stuff out. So it's exciting to have someone else on that gets to do that as part of their service offering. So I guess to start, why don't you tell me a little bit about your background and what inspired you to found Boomernology?
I grew up in New Jersey. Been working in New York for over 20 years. Thought about being an attorney. Wound up working at pretty major law firms throughout New York City as a legal assistant. Get my feet wet, and then I decided being a lawyer wasn't the path for me. And then I was jumping from firm to firm to firm. I was always entrepreneurial, so ever since I was a kid, I was taking apart stuff and selling it or figuring things out. I always had some kind of side hustle. And then Boomernology started as like a sheer accident. I was going to Fire Island with my girlfriend, and we have cats, and we have a cat sitter, and she's an older woman, and for you to get like into our apartment or building, you don't have a physical key, but you have like your smartphone as your access. So
okay.
When I was installing the software on her phone, I realized it wouldn't work. And then when I really looked into it, she didn't update her phone since 2016. That's a problem.
How long ago was this?
4 years ago. So
oh, wow.
So she didn't update her phone for 4 years. She's going to kill me. But anyway, she didn't update the phone for 4 years, and she had over like 60,000 photos on her phone. So one thing led to another. I said I could fix it. Updated her software. I was able to back up her photos. And she was like, wow, this is great. Can you fix? I have another smartphone. I was like, okay. I don't know why I have another phone. But anyway, so I fixed that phone. And then I went to a laptop. And then one day she was like, can you help my friend out? I said, sure. Another friend, an elderly friend. And then she said to me one day, you ever thought about making a business out of this? And I was like, no, I'm just doing this to be a nice guy and stuff. She's like, well, there's a lot of people my age that, have these issues, and they need someone who's friendly and kind and can explain things and, get to the point. And she goes, what would you charge? And I was like, I have no idea. She's like, well, give me a number. And I'm like, I don't know. And she said, well, how about $150 an hour? And I went, all right, well, let me look into this. So did some research, and then I realized, the impact of baby boomers and seniors, not just in New York City, which is, as of today, 1.6 million, but throughout the United States, next to Gen Z, it's the second largest population with the number one largest spending power, $70 trillion. So, I started calculating this in my head. So while I was working at my last job, I was doing this on the side. And, I was just doing this on the weekend while I was just working as a legal assistant. And then I started getting a client here, client there. And then I just decided, I could actually make a business out of it. So I decided to leave my job and I just went out on my own. And I've just been doing Boomernology ever since.
That's a great origin story. That's excellent. And that's the best when somebody else is like giving you, hey, you should start a business out of this.
Yeah, I would have never thought of that,
Yeah.
And then I started putting the numbers together and said, hey, wait a minute.
This makes
So,
sense.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's very similar to why we kind of niche down into the senior living market too. I mean, we've had our marketing agency for 20 years, and it was over the
Mhm.
last 10 years of working with some senior living providers that we really started to notice that there was a big gap in the types of services that senior living providers were in need of, and just overall, kind of very similar to you. There's a gap in knowledge there that I think we help fill, and I think you're doing that for this target group. And it's the gap in knowledge, it's the safety and security that you're able to provide people along the way that I think is really interesting. So, so as your role as the founder and CEO of Boomernology, what does that entail for you on a daily basis?
Well, the first thing is just being empathetic and 100% pro client, giving the full attention because basically Boomerology's business is one-on-one concierge service. So our business model is basically 80% in-person concierge. Uh, that's 80% going to the person's home or facility or wherever they're at. 10% if they come to our office here in Hell's Kitchen in New York City. And then for our returning customers, we do 10% is our remote work. So that's the customer is the number one focus. And then the other focus is getting the word out. And that's everything from print, social media. We're on all the channels. And I know this sounds kind of old and cliche, but knocking door to door. I mean, I've done everything from standing outside, supermarkets to visiting research facilities, doorman buildings, just to get the word out. And not just necessarily, the baby boomer and the senior population, but also their adult children, their caregivers, and their grandkids as well, because a lot of grandkids these days, you talk to someone in a bar and they say, oh, I think what you're doing is great because I can't stand helping my grandfather because I have 11 things to do besides school. And it's kind of like, oh, that's a little TMI, but I can totally understand where you're coming from because I'm my mother's tech support and, she's
Yeah.
by herself. So someone has to be there to help her out.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's helpful too when there's someone outside of the family that can help with those things, because I know that like there's been times where there's been like a heated exchange between family members over something like tech
Absolutely.
support, right? And it's like it's
Absolutely.
usually not about the tech issue at all. It's like some other thing like, well, you didn't call me after Thanksgiving, and then
That's right.
that becomes the focus. So like you're able to step in as a third party, that's super helpful.
That
So what do you think? I mean, and I think like knocking door to door when you're in a large city like New York, I mean, makes total sense. Like you've got a candid audience there, and the fact that you can work with people outside of just this one specific niche market. I mean, tech tech literacy is huge across the board, and I think we're kind of on the cusp of like, you know, my son's generation, for example, they're way more tech savvy than even my generation. But we mostly grew up with the internet. We had a computer in our house, but we didn't get the internet until the late 80s or early 90s that we had like AOL dial up. We did grow up with it, but I also like in high school I had like a beeper, like so
yes.
if my parents needed to
We
get a
all
hold of
did.
me, they could send me a quick message on that. But technology's come along, it moves so fast that if you're not somebody who is paying attention and who is like immersed in it on a regular basis, you can fall behind really fast.
I absolutely agree. And for example, like, we have several clients that, in the, I would say late 70s, early 80s, 90s, they were on the cusp of technology. And the thing was, but they were always using the same thing for so long, or they were at, in these successful positions before they retired or semi-retired that they had three, four, five, seven assistants doing everything for them. So when those assistants went on to bigger, brighter things, and then they went their separate way, there was this huge gap
Yeah.
from one side to the other, you know? So it was, if someone had to do a PowerPoint and they're like, hey, get the watermark out or get the page numbers, where, that's something that you and I could do in 5 minutes. Someone else is freaking out because they're like, hey, I have to meet a client in 40 minutes and I don't even know where to start, how to do this. And I don't have the time to go on YouTube and do a video. Can you do this for me? So it's, little things like that. How to shop for a computer, you go, not knocking on the big box stores, but when you go there, it's just like buying a car. They're going to sell you the biggest, baddest, shiniest thing on the lot.
And tell
And
you
if
need it. Yeah.
until you need it, and what you had before, just throw it away. Not, oh, you could do this, this, and this, and it'll survive. It'll save you an extra year or two to look for something that you really want. They just tell you, oh, just throw that out. I mean, to give an example, I had a client. She had an old iMac, and she had about like 16,000 family photos dating back to like 2099, and they just told her, oh, just throw out the iMac. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Like, my kids, I have all these family memories on that. And, luckily, with our help, we were able to recover those photos. But just the fact, maybe if that was someone who was extremely older and, they were just like, oh, okay, and just throw it out, not thinking, hey,
Not thinking. Yeah.
I could actually recover this and put it not even on a hard drive, but put it on like Google Photos or somewhere else in the cloud and save it, and then shop for a new computer, and then I could pull it off the cloud and throw it back onto that computer and never lose anything.
Yeah, I mean, tech has changed so much. I mean, we're at the point now, like even with our business, because everything we do is digital. Uh, Even in our home, I mean, I was like, our home could burn tomorrow, and like the only thing I would worry about were literally the family members and our pets, and that's it. I said everything else is recoverable because it's all in the cloud.
That's
So
right.
like tech has changed so much. And then I also, like, while you're talking, I was thinking about like my grandfather. When my grandmother passed, she had dementia, and when she passed, this was like early 2000s. I mean, like tech wasn't even really a big thing for that generation, right? I mean, they were the Great Depression generation, and World War II vets and everything like that. And my grandfather couldn't even make a grilled cheese sandwich by himself. Like he didn't even know how to do that. So like the fact that we're talking about, like, now we're talking about older adults not being able to like maybe like download photos or pick the right smartphone for themselves. It's like technology has come so far in just one generation. It's pretty crazy. But they're being left behind, and that's part of the challenge. So that brings me to my next question. Like, what do you see as the biggest challenges facing older adults when it comes to tech?
In my personal opinion, I just feel like you just said earlier, and I think you hit it right on the head. I just feel like that fear of being left behind, and
Yeah.
it's not just the shiny new laptop or the shiny new smart TV, but I know from personally my clients, these health portals. I know from personal experience, my mother's been working in hospitals for close to 50 years, and the leap from just paper and fax machines and everything like that to now with AI, it's jumped so significant that everything now is on the health portal. Like for example, I had a client, and she had some legal things and insurance things, and they would just say to her, well, just send the insurance company a PDF, and she's like, well, what the hell is that? I don't even know what a PDF is. And then you got to sit there. Um, First of all, they don't even tell you that you have to set up your healthcare portal profile.
Yeah.
That's just to start off with. And that's
Right.
a battle within itself, right? Because you have to prove who you are. You have to make sure it's secure. You have to make sure you have the right documentation, because now you're dealing with insurance companies. And if you have one number or one item off, you're not getting reimbursed, or you're not getting the coverage that you deserve. So it's
Yeah.
it's little things like that. And I think that's the one thing that definitely instills fear with the baby boomer and definitely the senior population, is that feeling left behind, feeling left out. Because if they call and they have to speak with like a customer service representative. That person's not going to be on the phone with them for an hour or 90 minutes. And now these days, and I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure in your life you dealt with something where you had to speak with a bot, and you're like, I don't want to speak with an AI bot that just writes back these answers that have no idea about my situation, because everybody's situation is different, and unfortunately
Yeah.
some people it's a dire situation because they really need that insurance. So I definitely think the fear of being overwhelmed and being left behind, I definitely think that's one of the biggest problems today.
Yeah, that's pretty huge. I actually did a podcast, and that was part of what we were talking about, but it was the discrepancies in healthcare for older adults, specifically because of their lack of digital literacy when it came to tech and and even what tech was available. So there was some studies done that said if like seniors who were living in a more advanced retirement community, they had longer life expectancy, less health issues, and a lot of it had to do with the tech that was involved. So there was for example, there's tech out there now that can predict falls, or like detect falls if somebody falls in their apartment, so they can and they can determine if it was like a serious fall or just or maybe the person just like bent down to tie their shoe, right? So there's these varying levels of how tech can help, but people who are receiving these higher levels of care and attention through technology are living longer. They have a better quality of life. So then there's these discrepancies of like, okay, well, so if somebody can't afford to live in a place like that, then they're not going to live as long as somebody else just because they don't have access to the same resources. So I would say that there's that, and then there's also the lack of like socialization. If people aren't tapped into having a smartphone and being able to FaceTime their family and friends, and like our generation, we're more comfortable. Like I can get on a Zoom call and I can have a meaningful conversation, but like older generations, that's not necessarily the case. They want to be face to face with somebody, and that's not always possible. So when they don't have those opportunities to create these relationships, even through a screen, that creates a social disconnect, which again leads them to feel more isolated than
And just to jump on, add on what you were saying, I think, and this, I know COVID was awful, but the one positive thing that COVID did bring out was the key attention to be in contact with our loved ones.
yeah.
So when we were all separated and locked down in our homes, and, we're kind of freaking out, like, is my mom okay? Is my grandfather okay? I don't know. And then, you're buying like digital devices, and you're like, you're sending them to their home, or they panic and they're buying stuff on Amazon or Apple or the Google store, and they're just watching YouTube videos. And then, you know, thank God, you were able to, from as awful as COVID was, you were able to learn more about tech. And I feel like now, I think there was a research in either AARP or Pew Research Group about the increase in purchases in electronic devices jumped significantly up to like 70% since COVID. So that was
I
a
believe that.
serious
Yeah.
eye opener about
Yeah.
being in touch with technology and being connected with one another.
Yeah, I mean, there's like now another recent statistic I think was like there was a high percentage of older adults that own a smartphone. It was like upwards of 80 or 85%
Mm-hmm.
versus like 10 years ago it was like 45% or something crazy like that. So we've seen such a giant gap close in a really short amount of time. So I do think it was good to see that there was an event like COVID that did have some positive, things happen in terms of technology and keeping people connected, because it is important. It's like we're spread out all over the place. I live in California. My parents live in New Jersey, so there isn't really a whole lot of opportunity for us to be in the same space at the same time. So technology's definitely helped us, stay connected in a lot of ways that 10 years ago just wasn't happening. So it is good. So outside of what we talked about, what other steps do you think could be taken to help kind of bridge that gap in the digital divide between older adults and younger generations?
I think the key thing, I mean, me personally, I think that we live in this globalization era, and I've said this numerous times to other people that like our parents, our grandparents, our great grandparents came from that pre-globalization era where everything
Yeah.
was a one-on-one relationship, right? You had your favorite waiter, you had your favorite tailor, you had your
Yeah.
favorite barber, you had a milkman. I remember that when I was real small as a kid. We actually had a soda beverage milk person. I thought that was the weirdest thing, but that was the norm back then when I was growing up as a kid.
Yeah.
Your butcher, the guy at the deli, everything was a one-on-one personal relationship. And I
Right
feel
down the
like,
corner, right?
yeah, I have this guy in the corner for me. I have this guy who delivers ice when we have parties. I have this guy, you know, who can, like I said before, like runs the market that I can give a list. I can get a list from my grandmother, go to the market, hand it to this guy, and he just disappears. He comes back 20 minutes later and he gives me 2 bags to bring home. And I feel like with globalization, that's gotten pushed out of the way. Not like I'm not going to knock, the apps because I mean, I'm guilty as charged. I use them, the Grubhub, the DoorDash, the Uber Eats, the CVS, they have their time and place. But I also feel like for the older generation, they kind of feel left out if they're not, one, if they don't know how to use those apps, and B, they don't use them at all. They still, yeah, you know, they're kind of old school where like they still want to go out. I mean, I like to still go out to the market, feel things in my hand,
Yeah.
and pick my own produce and speak to my butcher and ask him how his day is. I think that's really important. So I think the one thing is that bringing back that one-on-one relationship is key because when you have that one-on-one relationship, you're letting that person know that you care. You're showing empathy and kindness, and you know, for example, like with Boomerology, it's not just about tech support. I want to make sure that when we leave, you're okay, you're good. If you don't call me for a month or two, it's not because, you don't want to bother. It's you're okay and you know what you're doing. And that's a great feeling. And I feel like if you can bring that relationship, not just in tech support, but in healthcare and um, education, like just, looking someone in the eye and saying, hey, what can I do to make your life easier and let you know that I care. I think that's paramount and very key.
That's great. I mean, my next question to you was going to be about boomernology and how you're providing personalized tech support for baby boomers and seniors. So, I mean, it sounds like that is your personalized approach, essentially creating a more of a concierge experience that goes outside of just dealing with that one particular tech issue, but just making sure they're good overall, and there's obviously most people typically have more than one thing that they need help with. So it sounds like you've created some pretty significant relationships that are ongoing with some of your customers.
Yeah, no, it is, and it's like it's not just like I said before, it's not about like just tech support, but it's also like helping our clients feel empowered with technology, but also letting them know that we care, like we're there for them. I've been with clients where the walker is kind of like in the wrong place, and you're like, hey, you want me to move this? And they're like, yeah, okay, or you like move furniture. You move,
Yeah.
next thing you know, you're moving. Oh, while you're at it, can you move this dresser?
Yeah.
Or, and it's the little things like that. Or, making sure the doors are locked. I had a post on our Twitter page the other day that one of the greatest feelings, not just about helping our clients with tech support, is, but when we leave and we hear because we're in New York City, that click, 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 chink, letting them know that, hey, make sure your doors are locked because you don't know who's in the hallway. I mean, I know you live in a nice area, but you never know, and it's really important to be proactive. So it's providing tech support, but it's also empowering our clients and just letting them know that we're here for them.
No, I think that's important. Some seniors have lived in their homes for decades, right? And they don't
Hmm.
realize that there's a lot of things that weren't an issue before, but now they're almost like obstacles, right? That are just in the way and they become safety hazards. So like if you're there and you can see those things and call them out and just be like, maybe this would be better off over here. Like that's
I've
great
done it.
that you're thinking about it. Yeah. What, in your opinion, like what are the top three tech issues that you see the most from older adults?
Well, number one, I would definitely say off the bat without hesitation is password management.
Mm,
Because a lot of our clients have passwords, right? So they watch TV, they're buying stuff on Amazon just like everybody else is, but not just this, but they have the healthcare portals, and the healthcare portals are slippery slopes, right? Because you have your insurance healthcare portal, then you have your primary care physician portal, because they're not right. It's not just one big
yeah.
conglomerate. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
That all the doctors are in. It's not like the NFL where all the doctors in one league, right? So you have a specialist for this. They have their own
Yeah.
healthcare
It
portal.
gets
You have
tricky.
yeah, I mean, I know from personal experience, there's a portal just for radiology, and when you don't have these passwords ready and you get locked out of the account, now that's a whole other headache. So I would definitely think password management is one. Um, Cybersecurity is two. Is uh, phishing and malware. I've done a couple of video webinars for other organizations discussing this issue, and it's a very serious issue because, according to FBI statistics, elder fraud just keeps climbing and climbing
Huge.
and
Yeah.
climbing. Yeah, because the cyber thieves are just getting slick, even more slick with each trick. It used to be, oh, we're gonna just send you an email so it looks like your best friend that you graduated with from high school. Now it's you can get a phone call or a text from the actual bank you bank with, but it's not them, and they're like, hey, give us this. We're giving you the 6-digit code. Go back to this site and put in the code, and then we can go over what's wrong with your account, and then next thing you know, they're in your account. So I would definitely say the malware, the phishing, and then the third thing, I know this sounds crazy and you're probably gonna eye roll, but software update. So so yeah, because what happens is, like our clients, but not even just our clients, but I have family, friends, and you know, older neighbors and stuff, and they have the best technology, and then they'll sit there and go, wait a minute, why doesn't this work? Why won't my emails um refresh? Or why can't I send a photo to my son or my daughter? And then the first thing you say is, well, could you update your software? And they'll say, well, why the hell do I need to do that? And you're like, well, because if you update the software, it's like a tune-up for the device you're using. And everything that was backlogged is going to seamlessly, work again. And then, you show them the update. And then the other thing, too, is sometimes some people say, oh, well, I did the automatic update. But sometimes those automatic updates don't work. I mean, I can tell you from personal experience, I do automatic updates, and they don't go through because what happens if you're away on vacation, or,
Yeah.
you're at work and there's a power outage,
Yeah.
and
Or you have an
that
app open that doesn't close the computer so it doesn't actually restart and
that's
install
right.
everything. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, I know this from my clients and some other seniors as well as baby boomers, but not even baby boomers, but like younger kids, they don't have the patience to sit there. Let's just say you're updating your MacBook and you get that app black screen with the Apple logo, and you got the bar, and it's about like a quarter of an inch away, and then it says 33 minutes remaining. And you're like, I don't have time to sit. I'm going
Yeah.
out on a date, or I have to go meet some friends, or I'm not going to sit in front of my computer for 33 minutes.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I would definitely say software update is like their biggest pain when it comes to our clients.
I'm not rolling my eyes because I believe that. No, and the thing I usually tell people too is not just software updates, but just restart your machine like sometime, or your phone. Like, oh, it's slow. If anybody ever tells me something is slow, I'm like, have you restarted it? It's like my
Right.
first question always. Do you work with any organizations for a group of maybe older adults, like a senior living provider? Have you gone to that level yet, or are you just kind of working on a one-on-one basis right now?
We're working on a one-on-one basis, but we definitely provide like free information because I think it's vital to get the word out. Like I was saying earlier, especially like when it comes to like elder fraud and like cybersecurity. So I've been, very thankful and had the opportunity to work with Presbyterian, I think it's Presbyterian Senior Services, PSS.org,
Yeah.
and Coming of Age. And they've been kind enough to invite us to do these live webinars and just to go over the importance about fraud prevention and cybersecurity. And the great thing about that is we provide like an actual PowerPoint after the webinar is over that they can keep with themselves. Because throughout the thing is, you could tell somebody what to look out for, but if you don't give concrete examples, it's just another lecture. And I think that goes with anything, whether it's tech support or a martial art. If you like physically show someone, hey, this is what you have to watch out for, and for example, in the webinars that I did for Coming of Age, I gave concrete examples of malware that was trying to get sold to me. So I had emails in my Gmail account saying, "Hey, you need to update your billing for Netflix, or we're going to cancel it." And I think that's kind of funny because I don't have a Netflix account, so that's a problem right there. So I'll give him examples, and then I gave him another example about like I had a phishing email from my best friend who lives out in California, and first of all, I know he doesn't speak to me like that in an email. Second of all, I was like, well, how did they get exactly his name, like his first name, his middle name, and his last name? That kind of weirded me out. And just the fact that like he was in, and he's in my inbox, not even in my spam folder. And it's like, hey, this is a great link. You click on it, and it's a mismatch of all these characters and numbers. And I knew right from the bat, like, he's not sending me this. But just to follow up, I asked him, like, why on earth would you send me that kind of thing? And he's like, what are you talking about? So, but going back to what I was saying before, like working with the organizations, like I felt like it's been really important and a blessing to us that we could provide like that free information.
Yeah.
Even if, they don't deal directly with us. It's just it's good to give back and give free information because these things are talked about a lot, but unfortunately, you read about it in the paper or online after the incident happened. You never hear about the person that thwarted the incident. It's always the aftermath. I lost my money in my brokerage account, or they were siphoning $9.99 a week from my account, and it's things like that are kind of sad that I'm glad that we're able to bring that
Yeah.
attention to those matters.
I think that knowledge, that transfer of knowledge is super important because I think the first immediate instinct for most people in those situations is panic, right? So if they don't realize that it is phishing or malware, they initially panic, and then they're more likely to give information away, and the cyber theft will prey on that.
It's funny you said that because when I was on a webinar, we had a Q&A, we had a client, and not a client, but a woman chimed in. And she's like, "How do you get these guys? How do you beat these guys?" And I said to her, with all honesty, the number one defense is the information that you put out into the world. If you go on surveys, for furniture, or you're voting about, who the best singer is on America's Got Talent or The Voice, and I'm not picking on those reality shows, but your data's being mined, so they know what
Yeah.
you're interested. If you're voting on a show like that, they know that you're into pop culture, right? So now they're gonna go into your information, and they're able to know, like, from algorithms, like, what do you buy the most? What shows do you watch the most, right? And then you're gonna get something from, you know, Amazon or Brooklinen. I'm just using these as examples, but let's just say, you're that kind of person that watches these shows, you're going to get these kind of phishing emails. So it's a slippery slope about what information you provide, because like I've said numerous times to clients and on webinars and things like that, like, you're the number one defense. What you put out into the world matters. And that also goes for social media. If you go on Instagram and you're putting up pictures of oh, my newest Ralph Lauren sweater or some kind of handbag, that like it or not, that data is getting mined.
Yeah.
People are getting paid to sell
Yeah.
that to the highest bidder.
Yeah. We don't own any of our social media content, whether we think we do or not, even if it's a private
No.
page. So It's
That's
it's
right.
property of the platforms. And there are services out there that maybe you can share with your audience too. There's things like Experian has, it's a monthly package. I think it costs like $25 or $29 a month, something like that. But they'll protect, you can put all of your information that you want to protect into their system. So
Mhm.
name, address, phone number, even credit cards, banking information, social security numbers, everything like that, and put it into their system, and it will scan the web and ensure that that information is not being used on any websites. And if it is, it'll send you a notification and let you know, like, hey, your email address was used on the dark web, or your,
Right.
your social security number was found on such and such data breach. Like, it'll let you know those things in advance. So I find, for me, that's been super helpful. I've had a couple of hits against my credit when I didn't even take. There was one that recently came out, a credit inquiry from Bank of America, and I don't bank with Bank of America. I don't have
Uh-huh.
any credit cards with Bank of America, and I was like, "What is this?" And with their help, I was able to get that credit inquiry removed and marked as a false inquiry. So that might be a good resource for some older adults that are concerned about that.
Yeah, and I think Norton has that premium package, that
Hmm.
360 package with LifeLock, and it's the same kind of thing. It has the dark web monitoring, and it has the app for your computer as well as your phone. So like if you're on your phone, like you'll get these alerts like, hey, your email was used for this so-called, not friendly site on the dark web, and you need to reach out. And then the other thing too is going back to what we were saying earlier about like the webinars that we did. There's also government organizations that are really big. So
Hmm.
I know there's an elder fraud hotline, and then there's the FBI had a crime complaint hotline. The FTC has a big one about like illegal business practices that have been put out there. And then I think there's the what is it? The APWG, Anti-Phishing Working Group, which is a really good one. And that's a free, government source, and that's great because they give you a lot of like phishing examples. Like these are the new things to look out for, right? So it's good to, you're not, if you're a little worried about something, you can go on, one of these sites like that.
Hmm.
Oh, Homeland Security has one. It's
Yeah.
like it's something about like uh stop, think, and then click, you know. So like just doing those like instead of stop, drop, roll like we were taught like with a fire, this is the same thing with like online safety. It's like stop, think, click. And I know their Department of Homeland Security works with all the global agencies around the world in law enforcement and cybersecurity, and they all work in a collaborative effort to thwart like these types of cybercrime.
Yeah, even not just like cyber theft, but a good example was we purchased, and anytime we buy anything from like an overseas company, we always use a third party like a PayPal service, something like that, where
Mm-hmm.
we can file a dispute. So we had purchased, I think it was like a coat or something from a company in China, and they didn't want to refund us, and they also wanted us to pay for shipping it back, and the the cost of shipping it back was more than the item that we
Of
bought. So we're
course.
just like, number one, this doesn't make sense. Like, they didn't even send the right item. Like, it was like a completely different coat than what was advertised, and so I ended up actually filing with the Department of Homeland Security. They have a page on their website where you can file for like for transactions like that, for fraudulent transactions, and you can make a claim. And as soon as I filed that and I sent that to this company, they immediately refunded
Of
everything, and they're
course.
like, "Oh yeah, just keep." They're like, "Keep it. Like, you don't even have to send it back." So yeah, there's some help out there if you know where to look for it, for sure. But what about AI? Is that something that, and like other emerging technologies being integrated into senior care to enhance operations and resident experiences? What's your opinion on that? I mean, do you see that as a harmful thing, a helpful thing?
Well, we don't know everything. Like anybody who sits there and says they know everything about AI doesn't know a lot about AI because it's the unknown, right?
Yeah.
I kind of equate it to like what the .com was, but not even that, but like what the gold rush was, right? Everybody going to the Western territory searching for gold, and they don't even know where to start, right? Like what was the old story about Levi's, right? They went out there to look for gold, and they want to create the biggest gene company in the world because they
Yeah.
realize that
So
all the miners needed genes that could
yeah.
last them forever.
Yeah.
So going back to AI, I think it's helpful because I think it could save a lot of time, especially with these um, uh, living facilities, not just like senior care facilities, but like these 55 and 60 and up gated communities. I think it can catch the pulse of the people that are living in those facilities. Um, you know, what are their likes, their dislikes, and then, using AI to figure a way to reach out more and attract people to come to these kind of facilities. And like I was saying earlier on the podcast, right? Um, how can we take that one-on-one connection with the customer and then run all the information we get and run that through AI and give us these new, fresh ideas that we never even thought of, or solutions to a previous problem. So I think it's kind of beneficial. It's unknown, but I also think it's helpful. Now, I know from my personal clients, when I try to explain to them about like GPT, they're like, after 10 minutes, they're just like, shut up. I just fix the TV. I don't,
That-
it's
that's too
freaking
far
me
out there
out.
for me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's too far.
Yeah.
Like, I have a hard time with the smart TV. So when we get there, we get there. But,
Yeah.
going back to like AI, I think it's helpful. I mean, I know it helps me greatly because, I research a lot of data about our clients, our future clients, and, what's the next step? How can we provide, better service out there in the future without being too aggressive, if you will, because like, a lot of seniors are set in their ways, they as bad as they might need something, you can't force someone to jump on the new shiny thing. They have to see if it works for them. So, AI has definitely helped us out in, how to convey a message to see how we can make things, uh, beneficial for our clients.
Yeah. I think one of the best uses of AI eventually will be once it becomes a source of truth and not just a quicker way to get information, it'll
Mm-hmm.
be just that. Like it'll merge both. It'll be quick and it'll be a source of truth. And right now it's quick, but it's not always accurate, and
No.
it's not always giving you answers based on factual data. It's giving you answers based on previous queries that you've put into the system and what it thinks you might want to hear in the way you want to hear it. So I think that's part of the challenge. But I know from a older adult standpoint, if I had a simple question to ask and I just wanted to get a simple answer, like that's where ChatGPT or other AI bot type services will really shine, because it's able to understand the question and it's able to produce a simple answer back. Whereas if I put that into Google, I now have 10, 20, 30, 40 different options and different websites I have to click on, and I have no idea which of these websites are super, high quality websites. You have to assume that Google's going to put the best search results at the top of the list, but that's not always the case, and Google doesn't always get it right in terms of like contextually understanding what it is you're even asking. But if I can ask in a long form, if I can say like, what in 2024, what's the average rate of Alzheimer's disease for older adults over the age of 85? And it can come back and tell me that according to recent data from 2022 from the Alzheimer's Association, 33% of older adults above the age of 85 have Alzheimer's disease. Like that's a simple answer. I didn't have to go anywhere else. Like I got all
Right.
the information I need. So like I can see the advantages for things like that for sure. What are some future plans for Boomernology? Are there upcoming initiatives or expansions you'd like to share with the audience?
Well, the one thing is, like I said earlier in the podcast, it's a one-on-one business, so we're building slowly, one client at a time, getting the word out. I learned this from I believe one of the founders of Airbnb, and the thing was he was talking about like when he was in Y Combinator about how to build with focusing on your most 100 important loyal fans instead of a million, because you can you could get the pulse of what they really want, their hopes, their wishes, desires, their needs, and whatever tiny hole there is, you could fix. And then the other thing too is just to build a solid foothold in New York City. I mean, not to toot horn, but I think this is the best city in the world. And I know there's like a lot of seniors and baby boomers that could only use our help, but there's a lot of services out there. Like I know OATS, Older Adult Technology Society. I know AARP Senior Planet does a phenomenal job helping seniors doing the things that we like to do. So I think it's really important for those agencies to help. And like I said earlier, uh, we really want to build Boomernology as the front runner in this concierge personalized tech support one-on-one, and build it here in New York City, and hopefully grow it across the country.
I think my last question for you would just be, what advice would you give to senior living providers looking to enhance their technological infrastructure and improve their services for their residents?
I think the one thing that I see a lot is just from like my own research, I think the one having more staff just for that, because I know a lot of facilities they'll have maybe
One
two,
guy.
three, one
Yeah.
guy. Right? You see the website, and it's always the same looking kind of guy, in all the photos, and it's like, well,
Yeah.
he's got to go home to a family or eat, right? So, I think having a team of tech support people, I think that's really important. And then the other thing too, like I've been saying this throughout the whole podcast, I think the one-on-one relationship is so important because, I know I've dealt with classes and, teaching, cybersecurity or how to filter your email, or just not to sound silly, but how to minimize and maximize, your windows on your Mac or your PC, that's that's great. It's perfect to teach for one person, but when you teach it to a group of 30, maybe 40 people, it's kind of tough, especially when they're older. It's like the old saying, and I've said this before, like when you go to learn to play the drums or you go to learn to play piano, you have one person next to you, right? You don't have 15 people on one side of the drum set and the other 15 on the drum set, right? It has to be
Yeah.
a
Total
one-on-one relationship.
chaos.
Yeah,
Oh
and
my
and I
God.
because when you teach, like I noticed, like when you teach tech support, right, you're gonna get, let's just say out of 30 people, you're gonna get like 10 people that are gonna be enthralled. They're gonna understand it right away. Then you're gonna get that other 10 that you kind of lost them, like 30 minutes in, because now it's too much. I know that from my own physics, horror story. But anyway, and then the last 10, they checked out in like the first 3 minutes. Like, what the heck am I doing here? I want to go back to the room and eat. It's like I rather call up my grandson and ask him. And that's going back to, like I said before, the one-on-one relationship. So I think that would be the keys to either two things, like have a team. I don't know necessarily how many, because it all depends on the
Depends on the
services you
size.
provide
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
size, correct. And then the other thing too is I think the one-on-one relationships are huge because, like I said before, it's not just you're providing tech support, it's you're providing empathy, and you're letting that person know that they care, that
Yeah.
you care about their situation, because hey, if their smart TV doesn't work, that's like DEFCON 5 to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
If their show's on in 8 minutes, you better
Yeah.
have it on
Forget
at
it.
7. So, no, it's the truth. I've been there. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I
Uh,
think what you said too about having a leave behind too is important. Having something that a hard copy or a PowerPoint presentation or something that they can refer back to, just as a point of reference, for later on when maybe that tech support person isn't there, but there's still like some simple steps they could follow to maybe getting connected to Wi-Fi or getting their smart TV reset or whatever it is. Like they could create those guides.
it's funny to jump on what you were saying before. I know there's a few very, very high-end living facilities here. I'm pretty sure you know some of the ones, but they have like these tablets, and I think they're brilliant. And they like they can answer like all your questions, and it's like a direct line to like the IT department. And I think that's brilliant too, right? So
Yeah.
let's just say they have something in the middle of the night, they could just tap on this tablet and either somebody comes like as the late night support, or they can get a direct answer on this tablet. And I think that's huge too.
Yeah. No, that's all great advice. So, David, as we wrap up, how can our audience stay connected with you and Boomernology to keep this important conversation going?
Okay. Well, you can follow us at boomernology.com. And then with respect to social media, we're on all the platforms. So you name it, we're on Facebook, Instagram,
Everything.
Twitter, Threads, everything. We're like Hydra. We're all over the world. And then the other thing too is we have a monthly newsletter, and we
Okay.
have a very important informative blog, and we also have YouTube. Our website, we also have like upcoming videos and webinars that we've done in the past that we upload. So, if you're intrigued about cybersecurity, I just did one recently, I believe in April, and that's up on the site. So, and the other thing too is with respect to our social media, it's not just about selling, it's about providing, real information, stuff that you might not get in the big box store. And, we're always around to answer, like, there's no such thing as a silly question. Like I said before, I had a client yesterday and I helped them out talking about like minimizing and maximizing Windows, and their mind was blown. And I got to be honest, I kind of had a joy about that because, it's like, I don't know, it's kind of like learning a martial art. You learn something like one little tweak and then the world opens up. And
Yeah.
just showing that to them yesterday meant a lot. So,
Yeah. Well, sometimes
so
you forget like how much you know and how little somebody else might know when it comes to tech. So like it's super exciting when you get to just share a piece of that with somebody. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And so, like I think, like I said before, I think the one-on-one relationship and sharing and letting somebody know that you care about them, and just seeing the excitement in their eyes, it works both ways. We get a kick out of that as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So I'll make sure I put all the links to your social media and your website into the show notes so that anybody watching or reading the show recap, they can find you and connect with you online. So as we wrap up today's episode, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to David Kolesnikow for joining us and sharing his valuable insights into the world of senior tech support. It's inspiring to see how dedicated professionals like David are making a difference in the lives of older adults by empowering them to navigate the digital world with confidence and ease. So if you want to stay connected with David and learn more about Boomernology, be sure to visit their website at boomernology.com and follow their journey on social media. And again, I'll put all of that in the show notes. So as always, we hope you found this episode insightful and inspiring. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform and stay tuned for more episodes where we can continue to explore the dynamic world of senior living marketing and sales. Also, this is a reminder that From Leads to Leases isn't just an audio experience. We're also a video podcast. So if you want to see the video versions of our episodes like the one we did here with David, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube and Spotify channels. So I'm Jerry Vinci, CEO of CCR Growth, thanking you for joining us on From Leads to Leases, where we're giving you all of these great senior living industry insights for free and asking nothing in return other than for you to like, subscribe, and share this episode with anyone who might find it useful. I'm truly grateful for your time and attention. Until next time, lead with strategy and with heart. Chat with you again soon. Thanks for tuning in. Explore more at ccrgrowth.com. At CCR Growth, we've developed the Senior Growth Innovation Suite to unlock an additional $1.5 million and up in revenue per senior living community within a year. We specialize in generating quality leads, expediting sales, and reducing acquisition costs. Let's connect soon.